Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says promised free vehicles, funds, it's all fake. The government of India and respective state governments have come up with numerous schemes and programs to help the people of our country. They work in diverse fields: agriculture, women empowerment, financial inclusion, MSME sector, health, education, so on and so forth. The objective of the government is to reduce inequality in the society and bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. Remember, they are genuine schemes introduced by the government of India as well as respective governments. But there are set of schemes that are not genuine in nature. They are fake, worked out by the fraudsters to make quick money, cheat people and disappear. These are called as the fake schemes introduced by the fraudsters in India. Let's take some of the examples. We have the free laptop scheme, PM Scooty Yojana, PM Kisan Tractor Yojana, Pradhana Mantri Solar Panel Yojana, PM Kanya Ashirwad Yojana. All these are examples of fake schemes initiated by the fraudster. Kindly remember, these are not the programs, these are not the schemes introduced by the government of India or the respective state governments, but they are non-existent schemes, and what we have to realize is that such schemes and fraudsters have increased during the COVID-19 crisis. Now the question is, how do they work, or what is the modus operandi? Most of these fraudsters basically only work for the monetary benefits by cheating some of the people. So what do? They employ some of the cheating tactics. What are these tactics? They send people a message or a general message where people who have actually got this message get lured by these fraudsters. So what exactly happens? They send a personal SMS. They can also send an email as well. So what is the objective of their message? The objective is to make some quick money from this particular person by cheating them. So they send this particular message. They say that the government has initiated such and such scheme, and in case they want to be a participant in this particular scheme where they can derive maximum benefits from it, they have to pay certain processing charge. So the minute you pay the processing charge, you become the part of that particular scheme and you would be able to enjoy the benefits derived from the scheme. So what happens here? They ask for the processing fee, and when the processing fee is given, they immediately vanish from that particular place. So what happens? You have these people who are lured by the fraudsters. The minute they get the processing fee, they're no more in that personal contact or the email or in person as well. That is how they are able to make some quick money and cheat the people as well. Then we have another example of Gram Vikas Rozgar Yojana, which happens to be one more fake employment scheme as well, where messages were directly delivered to the village pradhans or sarpanches in couple of states in India. It has the states like Telangana, Punjab, Meghalaya and some other states. So what exactly happened? They send messages to the sarpanch of that particular village. They ask that in case there are youth in your village, they have to register for the employment scheme. For registering to this employment scheme, they have to pay some expenses, and once they pay these expenses, the government of India will contact them for a particular job role. So the minute the youth are inquired, the minute the youth are actually paying this particular money, which is an expense as part of the government scheme, the minute the money is received, again they vanish from that particular place. That is the kind of issue that we are facing with respect to the fake schemes. The next important question is, why do these people fall for such fake schemes? That is because of the innocence. Let's say for example, there is a person from the rural areas, or there might be a person who's not aware in the urban areas. So these type of people are looking for job opportunities. So they might visit a social media website. It can be on the Facebook, it can be on YouTube, it can be on Instagram, or it can be on Twitter as well. So the minute they are looking for jobs, there are pages on Facebook which actually lure the people, and just because they have limited idea about the fake schemes and programs, and their innocence is exploited by these fraudsters, and ultimately they pay the processing fee, and they are the ones who suffer because of this fake scheme. Then we have the names which are very similar to the scheme. Let's say for example, Pradhana Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, or let's say for example any of the MSME schemes schemes. So what you will actually see is that the names of this particular website will be very similar to that of the government website as well. Let's say for example we have the Ujjwala Yojana. The spelling of Ujjwala Yojana might be UJJWALA, but the fraudsters are so brilliant that they have Ujjwala rather than Ujjwala. So UJJ is replaced with UJWALA. So what exactly happens? The website looks very similar to that of the Government of India, and it almost has a similar layout as well. That is what is an idea of phishing as well. So create a website which is as similar to that of the Government of India's website or the respective governments, and it is there. They collect all the information and the processing fee. So the person who does not know whether it is a genuine website or not will fall prey to it, and ultimately they are the ones who come under this particular fake scheme as well. So what exactly happens? There is a phishing website which has a similar layout. It also has the image of the prime minister. It also has the image of cabinet ministers. So they go to that particular website and they pay some processing fee, anticipating, expecting that this is the genuine website, but unfortunately this is not. So that is another way where these fraudsters are cheating some of the innocent people. And the third is also because of the carelessness as well. Whenever there are such fraudsters who actually call us up, we are more excited about deriving some benefits from the government of India or from the respective governments, that we don't actually inquire whether that person is genuine or not. We have to look at the genuine websites. We also have to look at whether they have the identity cards. We also have to look at who they are, where are they calling from. All this will also have to be checked. But because we have to derive the benefits, because we have to extract maximum, we sometimes become careless, is another important argument as to why such people continue to be present and continue to exhibit these fraudulent schemes. Now what we have to look at is concerns because of these schemes. What exactly happens whenever there is a fake message? What we actually do, we actually check if that particular message is a legitimate message or not. How? We check with the newspaper, we also check with relevant websites as well, but that is not happening when it comes to the fake schemes as well. That is why people are being glued and they are committing themselves to these tragedies. So what should happen in the near future? We have the media which is taking up these issues like the fake news, which is on the basis of impacting the society. But what the media is not focusing is on the fake schemes. Why? Because these are isolated incidents. When it comes to the fake news, it impacts the larger arena, the larger society. What the fake news does is it impacts the whole society. That is why the media is taking it, but they are not considering the same when it comes to the fake schemes, because these are isolated in nature. So going forward, these type of media, the print and the visual media, should consider both and make sure that an awareness about the fake schemes is also given to the people of India. On many of the YouTube videos, there are again people, or in Facebook, there are again people who are giving away their phone numbers, their Aadhaar numbers when it comes to such fraudulent schemes. So what is happening here? Apart from we giving our Aadhaar number and phone number where we can get cheated in the near future, what we are also violating is our own privacy as well. What we are compromising is on our own privacy as well, and we do not know where the Aadhaar number gets used, where these phone numbers gets used. So kindly remember that privacy is very important when it comes to the online platforms. You cannot give your number haphazardly, is the second major concern. And the third important concern is with respect to people themselves. Whenever they are cheated, whenever they are duped, they ultimately blame themselves and they actually don't go about complaining to the police or bringing into the notice of the state as well. That is where is the third major concern. Why? In the near future, whenever there is a genuine program, genuine scheme introduced by the government, these people with an apprehension and fear might not actually become the beneficiaries of this particular scheme. So the genuine schemes will not get noticed because in the past they have had some bad experience. That is why they don't go with respect to the genuine schemes is the third major concern. Ideally, they should have brought it to the police station. Ideally, they should have told it to the state as well, but they blame themselves because they were cheated, because they were not knowledgeable, and ultimately do not become the beneficiaries of the future schemes and programs. These are some of the major concerns. Now, the important factor is how do we overcome this issue. We have taken number of steps in the past as well. We have the Press Information Bureau. We also have the few state governments which actually come up with fact checking initiatives, but this is not enough. So what should we do going forward? We require the central government which creates a centralized government portal with a toll free number. Let's say I'm a person who's cheated. Let's say I'm a person who's duped. So I immediately call up to this toll free number created by the central government, and this toll free number is where I launch a complaint. So the complaint will immediately be routed to one of the police stations in that particular area, and they will have to investigate this case is what is the first suggestion. Then we also have the social media and technology companies which also have to design dedicated policies. What do we mean by it? Already we have Twitter and Facebook which already have something called as the fact check. These fact check basically make sure that there is no fake news that is being spread. Why? Because this can disturb the peace and tranquility and harm the social fabric as well. In order to overcome this particular issue, the social media like Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram or WhatsApp in fact as well will have to make sure that they have some policies to also fight the issue of fake schemes as well. This is another important factor that has to be taken up in the near future. Fake schemes also operate through websites which look like government portals. We did discuss about the phishing websites as well. In case any person comes to know about it, immediately this will have to go to the state governments, and the state governments will have to take up all the initiative to prevent such malpractices. So the same can also be done with bank account names that sound similar to the real government schemes as well. So whenever you notice that there is a website that is going to harm or which is similar in name, which is a phishing website, the same will have to be told to the state governments or in fact complained about it so that steps can be taken up by the government. The fourth important step is to alert the people about the fake schemes as well. We have the government of India and we have the governments of couple of states as well which actually provide advertisements on the national newspaper as well as in the visual media as well. When they are coming up with such ads on the newspaper which exhibits and tells people what is the scheme all about, they will also have to tell people of the country that there are some fraudsters who can use you and misuse you and cheat you and dupe you when it comes to fake schemes as well. So a similar instances will have to be told on the newspaper as well as on the visual media as well. And finally, the media, which includes both the print and the electronic media, will also have to tell the people of India that there are fraudsters and they have to give them all the mandated message and alerts to the people of India. In fact, we've also had the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which has directed the ministries and government departments from couple of state governments to observe due diligence to ensure that their schemes are not mispresented by fake, fraudulent entities for extorting money from the innocent people. In fact, the ministry has also suggested awareness schemes, identification of any fake scheme, and lodging of FIRs and informing organizations like the National Internet Exchange of India. This is what the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has told all the government departments as well as the state governments. Therefore, going forward, the government of India and the government of respective state governments will have to make sure that this is taken a note of and they have to prevent such malpractices and fake schemes and programs by the fraudsters. It is not only the responsibility of the government, it is also the responsibility of the NGOs, the civil society, so that we actually fact check, we actually know what is this scheme all about, and only then take this particular process. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about backlog cases when it comes to the RTI Act. We have one of the report cards which was brought about by the Sarthak Nagarik Sangathan and the Center for Equity Studies on the Right to Information Act. According to this particular report card, it has currently gone on to say that there are more than 2.2 lakh cases that are pending in the central and the state information commissions, which are the final courts of appeal under the transparency law. When you look at the statistics further, it goes on to say that Maharashtra has the highest number of pending appeals with over 59,000 cases, followed by Uttar Pradesh, and we also have the Central Information Commission, which currently has about 35,653 cases. In this particular backdrop, what we have to understand is what are the reasons as to why there are increasing cases of backlog of cases when it comes to the Right to Information Act. The first important factor is with respect to vacancy. We have one of the important sections under the Right to Information Act, and that happens to be section 12 of the Right to Information. What does it speak about? It says that the central government will have to constitute a body, and that particular body is called as the Central Information Commission. So what does the Central Information Commission consist of? It consists of the Central Chief Information Commissioner and such other Central Information Commissioners not exceeding 10. So all in all, we can have as many as 11 members when it comes to the CIC. So this will include the Chief Information Commissioner and as many as 10 Central Information Commissioners. But what is happening of late is that we have been given a mandate that we can have as many as 10 Information Commissioners, but that is not reflecting when it comes to the reality. What is the major issue here? The major issue is that all these commissions are working with reduced capacity. There is vacancy in couple of positions in India with respect to the Information Commissioner at the central level and also at the state level as well, but that is not being undertaken and these vacant posts are not being filled, and ultimately what we have is increasing cases of vacancy. So what is that we have to understand is that in case there is a vacancy, this will require periodic and timely manner of appointment of these Information Commissioner, but that is not reflecting when it comes to the reality. Let's take some of the examples. Odisha is functioning with just 4 commissioners, Rajasthan has only 3, Jharkhand and Tripura have no commissioners at all and have been defunct for the 3 months. The Chief Information Commissioner has no chief and only 5 commissioners at the central level as well. This is the case of mediocrity. This is a case of not being filled up, and ultimately all the information required that is being filed with the Central Information Commission or with the respective State Information Commission, that is not getting fulfilled and people are not getting the relevant information with respect to the government operations is the first major concern. In this particular backdrop, we also have to look at what the Supreme Court of India has spoken about this undue delay. In the past, when it comes to the non-appointment of the Information Commissioner, the Supreme Court of India had also ruled that proper functioning of the commission will require adequate number of commissioners. In case there are no adequate number of commissioners, it means that the effective implementation of the RTI Act may not come into precedence and it may not be implemented as well. So what has the Supreme Court said in the past? It has said that we require the adequate number of commissioners. In case they are not present, the implementation of the RTI will become a major issue. And at the same time, the Supreme Court had also suggested that let's say there is a vacancy which can come up in the next 2 months. So identify who are the Information Commissioners who will be retiring. So ensure that this periodic updation or validation or vacancy is filled before 2 months itself. So the minute you realize that there'll be a vacancy in the next 2 months, start looking for the Information Commissioners before 2 months of that particular vacancy is one of the recommendations given by the Supreme Court in the past. But the government at the central level and couple of states in India have not taken this recommendation seriously, and ultimately we have increasing cases of vacancy is the first major issue. The second major issue is with respect to penalty. We know for the fact that some of the bureaucrats or some of the public officials who are working in the government sector are known for the corruption, and we also know for the fact that bureaucracy at times is also secretive in nature. Why? Because they want to have increasing chances of corruption breeding in the system. system. This is not the entire system, but this is in specific reference to few bureaucrats and few officials who are working with the government. So what exactly happens? In case there is an information that is asked by the people, information given by these public officials might either be incorrect as well, or there might be some undue delay as well. So what will happen here? There is a procedure that has to be followed, but that particular procedure is not followed by the public officials who are working in the government of India or the respective governments. So what exactly happens when it comes to the Information Commission? There is a similar prospect as well. So you have to give the information when people are asking for it within a particular duration. If this information is not given within a particular duration prescribed by the law, then what the government imposes is called as penalty on all these people. Why? Because the people are seeking for the information. When this information is asked, ideally they have to give this information within a particular period. If that is not given, the central law says under section 20 that they can impose penalty as well. So these penalties are not only to the person who is the public information officer, but if this public information officer is asked someone else from a different government department, and if that person does not give the information on the right time, such other person can also be imposed with the penalty. But what is happening of late? The government at the central level and at the state levels are not imposing the penalty on all these people. Let us take some of the statistics. Out of almost 90,000 cases disposed of by 16 commissions between April 2019 to July 2020, show cause notices were issued in more than 15,700 cases, but penalties were imposed only in 1,995 cases. Gujarat accounted for more than 9,000 show cause notices, but only 163 penalties, which means in case there is a violation, ideally they should be imposed with penalty. But since the governments are not imposing the penalty, we will see that government officials will not be serious about it. So what will happen? This will also mean that public authorities who would violate the laws will feel that the government is not imposing fines. So let's continue with this attitude of not disposing the information when it comes to the information commissions. That has been the bad state and concern when it comes to the Right to Information Act. So what is that we have to understand? In the near future, whenever such information is asked, there will be a problem. One, because of the increasing cases of vacancy, and two is that the governments are not imposing penalty, and these issues can persist more during the COVID-19 crisis. Why? Because we are not working full strength and there is less accountability when it comes to the government officials as well as government. Why? Because these are extraordinary circumstances. So what we have to comply by is all the RTI sections going forward is what this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about recent steps taken by the Reserve Bank of India, and we did discuss about this issue in our day before yesterday CNA as well. But what is our focus today? Our focus is about two important terms. One is what is called as the dovish economic policy. The other is the hawkish economic policy when it comes to the Reserve Bank or the central banks in common. What do we understand by dovish policy? Basically, this is about accommodative stance. So what is this accommodative stance? We did discuss as well. Whenever there is an issue with respect to the economy, or they sense that the economy is not doing good, the dovish or the dovish type of economic policy usually focuses on cutting down the interest rate. So what they give importance to is cutting down the interest rate so that there is more activity when it comes to the economy. Because there is drop in the economic activities, these people want to further cut the interest rate so that there is increasing level of economic activity and growth when it comes to the sector. So what exactly happens? A dovish economic policy is where there is drop or cut in the interest rate. Why? Because they want to give boost to the economy. That is what this policy all about, and they do not give much importance to the inflation because they assume giving importance to the growth and economy is more important than inflation in the present arena. Then we have something called as the hawkish policy. What is this with respect to the central banks? banks. This is where usually when you have the central bankers support the rising interest rate. Earlier what we saw was drop in the interest rate, but these hawkish policy depends on increasing interest rate and they give importance to the inflation. Earlier they were not giving importance to the inflation, they were only focused on growth and development, but in this particular case what they look at is increasing the cases of interest rate, but what they focus is on cutting down the inflation. So there they did not give importance to the inflation, but here inflation policy is taken into picture. There the interest rate is comparatively low, here the interest rate is comparatively greater. So that is what is called as the dovish policy, or we also have what is called as the hawkish policy when it comes to the central bank. But for the rest of the analysis, what is it all about, what is the accommodative stance, kindly look into our day before yesterday's CNA. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about vaccine development. We have been discussing for couple of days and months for now about vaccine development, so on and so forth, but this article in specific is speaking about the rich and the poor divide. We have taken couple of steps when it comes to the COVID-19. We have introduced quarantines, we have had limited lockdowns, we have had hygiene measures, and we have also been discussing about social distancing as well. One of the important parameters that we also have to focus with respect to the COVID-19 is development of vaccine. Kindly remember, this is for the first time in the entire history of the humankind that we have such fast processing of vaccines. This has not happened in the past and this is unprecedented. Why? Because we have couple of countries, couple of organizations, couple of groups who are involved when it comes to the vaccine development. As of now, we do not have any of the vaccines, but there are promises that are made by couple of companies, couple of countries when it comes to vaccine development, and they are also in phase 3 of the development of vaccine. But there is a small concern when it comes to vaccine. What is it? That is what is called as vaccine nationalism. This has been explained in the past as well. We will also give you the link in the description box, but let me explain this in brief. Let's say for example, if there is a development of a vaccine in a particular country, or there is a development of a vaccine in some other country, what would happen? This country which is currently developing it, in case it develops and it becomes successful, this vaccine will be used only for that particular country rather than giving to some other country. Or let's say for example, there is a rich country, let's say for example United States of America, or we can take the example of United Kingdom. If they happen to develop a vaccine and if this particular vaccine is only used by the rich countries, that is what is called as the vaccine nationalism. So you develop the vaccine and use it only for your people, that is what is called as vaccine nationalism. So what is the major issue here? COVID-19 is not like any other crisis. If it is impacting rich, it is also impacting the poor as well. But if the vaccine is developed, this will have to be given to every single person and should not be patented, or in fact it should not be more priced, is what the article says. Why? Because in case it is priced more, again the people would not be able to afford it, and if this particular issue persists, it is not only that particular region which is going to be haunted, in fact it is the entire country and in fact the entire global economies which will also suffer the loss as well. So whenever there is a development of a vaccine, whenever there is this issue that is coming up, whenever there is the medicine that is ready, this will have to be equitably distributed and they need not have to be patented. They should be given to everyone and it should also be priced at a very low cost, is what is this article all about. Kindly remember, this article is speaking about the vaccine development and the link for the same will also be provided in our description box. Now let's look into some of the preliminary practice questions. The Chief Information Commissioner and Information Commissioners shall be appointed by the President on the recommendation of a committee consisting of, is it the Prime Minister who shall be the chairperson of the committee, leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, a union cabinet to the nominated by the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Home Minister of India. So this particular committee, whom does it consist of? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why is this practice question taken? Because we did discuss about the right to information as well. So kindly remember, whenever there is no position of the leader of the opposition, the single largest party which is present in the Lok Sabha will get this particular status. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to Swamitwa scheme. It is a new initiative of the Ministry of Agriculture and and farmers' welfare. It aims to provide rural people with the right to document their residential properties so that they can use their property for economic purposes. The scheme is proposed as a central sector scheme. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 2 and 3. Why? Because this is not an initiative of the Ministry of Agriculture, but instead it is an initiative of the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. What is the objective? It aims to provide rural people with the right to document their residential properties so that they can use their property for economic purposes. So what is the significance of it? In the rural areas, what we actually witness is people might be having their own homes, but they may not have the property papers. So what is the government doing? It is providing them and making sure that they all have their property papers with respect to their houses and with respect to properties as well, so that they in the near future, in case they have to make sure they are mortgaging something, or they have to make sure that they have to seek some loan from the bank, these papers and property papers can be pledged in the banks and the loans can also be taken as well. Another important factor is with respect to taxes as well. Because they do not have the property papers, because they do not know what is the taxation all about, in case we get the property papers, what we will have is the property tax which can be enforced on these people as well. So there are two advantages, one for the government, the other is also for the people as well. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. So Swamitwa here stands for Survey of Villages and Mapping with Improvised Technology in Village Areas. Now let's look into the next practice question. The matrix principles recently seen in news is related to eliminating or reducing of persistent organic pollutants, Convention on the Control of Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste, proposed peace settlement for Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and repatriation of prisoners between Spain and Portugal. The answer to this is it is a proposed peace settlement of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of this article mentioning about Madrid principles. So kindly remember, the Madrid principles is one of the proposed peace settlements that which was presented to the Armenian and Azerbaijani foreign ministers at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe Ministerial Conference in Spanish capital Madrid in the year 2007. This draws its inspiration from the 1975 Helsinki Final Act Principles signed at the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe. So kindly remember these important facts because this can be a very important question from your preliminary examination. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to blue flag for the beaches, which of the following statements is or correct? It is a certification by the Foundation for Environmental Education, which is not for a profit non-governmental organization. Spain has the highest number of blue flag certified sites by the international jury. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. So India currently has about 8 blue flag beaches. What are those? It includes Shivrajpur in Dwarka, Gujarat, Gagola in Diu, Kasargod and Padubidri in Karnataka, Kappad in Kerala, Rushikonda in Andhra Pradesh, Golden Beach in Odisha, and Radhanagar in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So kindly remember, this is a certification issued by the Foundation for Environmental Education, which is not for profit non-governmental organization. Kindly remember, this is headquartered in Copenhagen in Denmark. What is this all about? Basically, you have number of beaches which are not kept clean. So this blue beach certification basically says that that particular beach is clean in nature, hygienic bathing water is provided, safe and healthy environment is present, and sustainable development can also be progressed in this particular area. But kindly remember, this is also on the basis of 4 important parameters. One is the environmental education and information, water quality in that particular beach, environmental management, safety and services provided in this particular beach area. So what will be the impact? The beaches will be clean and well maintained. They will also have adequate recycling facilities. They will also have waste disposal bins as well. There will be a safe access area around the beach. Unauthorized camping, driving or dumping will not be allowed in this area. It is this that we have to understand with reference to this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to Rowlatt Satyagraha, which of the following statements is or correct? The Rowlatt Act was based on the recommendation of the Sedition Committee. In Rowlatt Satyagraha, Gandhiji tried to utilize Home Rule League. Demonstrations against the arrival of Simon Commission coincided with Rowlatt Satyagraha. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Fake schemes and programs problem is too huge and widespread for any single stakeholder to solve. What measures have to be taken to tackle the menace of fake schemes? Discuss the primary reasons for the mounting backlog of cases at the information commissions in India. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review, come up with constructive criticism. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.